the embassy hasn't a clue what's going on, or else they're lying outright.
And the latest report that just came out from Oxfam, from Amnesty International, and other groups about the effects of the siege on Gaza, what's happening right now?
A siege is an act of war. If anyone insists on that, it's Israel. Israel launched two wars, 56 and 67, in part on grounds that its access to the outside world was very partially restricted. That very partial siege they considered an act of war, hence a justification for, one of several justifications for what they call preventive, or if you like, preemptive war. So they understand that perfectly well, and the point is correct. The siege is a criminal act in the first place. The Security Council has called on it for Israel to lift it. Others have. It's designed to, as Israeli officials have stated, to keep the people of Gaza to a minimal level of existence. They don't want to kill them all off, because that wouldn't look good in international opinion, but as they put it, to keep them on a diet. The justification, this began very shortly after the official Israeli withdrawal. There was an election in January 2006, actually the only free election in the Arab world, carefully monitored, recognized to be free, but it had a flaw. The wrong people won. And the U.S., namely Hamas, which the U.S. didn't want and Israel didn't want. Instantly, within days, the U.S. and Israel instituted harsh measures to punish the people of Gaza for voting the wrong way in a free election. The next step was that the U.S. and Israel sought to, along with the Palestinian Authority, tried to carry out a military coup in Gaza to overthrow the elected government. This failed. Hamas beat back the coup attempt. That was July 2007. At that point, the siege got much harsher. In between, there were many acts of violence and shellings, invasions, and so on and so forth. But the basic, Israel claims that when the truce was established in summer 2008, Israel's reason for not observing it, withdrawing the siege, was that there's an Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit, who was captured at the border, and this is, international commentary regards this as a terrible crime. Well, whatever you think about it, capturing a soldier of an attacking army, and the army was attacking Gaza, capturing a soldier of an attacking army isn't anywhere near the level of crime of kidnapping civilians. Just one day before the capture of Gilad Shalit at the border, Israeli troops had entered Gaza, kidnapped two civilians, the Muammar brothers, spirited them across the border. They've disappeared somewhere in Israel's prison system, which is, there are hundreds, maybe 1,000 or so people, sometimes there for years without charges. There are also secret prisons. We don't know what happens there. This alone is a far worse crime than the kidnapping of Shalit. And in fact, you could argue that there was a reason why it was barely covered. Israel's been doing this for years, in fact, decades, kidnapping, capturing people, hijacking ships, killing people, bringing them to Israel, sometimes as hostages for many years. So it's regular practice. But Israel can do what it likes, but the reaction here and in the rest of the world of regarding the Shalit kidnapping, not kidnapping, you don't kidnap soldiers, the capture of a soldier as an unspeakable crime, a justification for maintaining a murderous siege, that's disgraceful.
Noam, so you have Amnesty International, Oxfam, Save the Children, 18 other aid groups calling on Israel to unconditionally lift the blockade of Gaza. And you have in the WikiLeaks release U.S. diplomatic cable provided to The Guardian by WikiLeaks, laying out, quote, National Human Intelligence Collection Directive, asking U.S. personnel to obtain details of travel plans such as routes and vehicles used by Palestinian Authority leaders and Hamas members. The cable demands biographical, financial, biometric information on key PA and Hamas leaders and representatives, to include the young guard inside Gaza, the West Bank, and outside, it says.
That should not come as much of a surprise. Contrary to the image that's portrayed here, the United States is not an honest broker. It's a participant in a direct, crucial participant in Israeli crimes, both in the West Bank and in Gaza. The attack in Gaza was a clear case in point, used American weapons. The U.S. blocked ceasefire efforts, gave diplomatic support. The same is true of the daily ongoing crimes in the West Bank. We shouldn't forget that. Actually, in Area C, the area of the West Bank that Israel controls, conditions for Palestinians have been reported by Save the Children to be worse than in Gaza. And again, this all takes place because of, on the basis of crucial, decisive U.S. military, diplomatic, economic support, and also ideological support, meaning distorting the situation, as is done again dramatically in the cables. The siege itself is simply criminal. It's not only blocking desperately needed aid from coming in, it also drives Palestinians away from the border. Gaza is a small place, heavily, densely overcrowded, and Israeli fire and attacks drive Palestinians away from the arable land on the border, and also drive fishermen in from Gazan territorial waters. They're compelled by Israeli gunboats, all illegal, of course, to fish right near the shore, where fishing is almost impossible because Israel has destroyed the power systems and sewage systems, and the contamination is terrible. This is just a stranglehold to punish people for being there and for insisting on voting the wrong way and for just refusing. Israel wants to, they decided we don't want this anymore. Let's just get rid of them. We should also remember that U.S.-Israeli policy since Oslo, since the early 90s, has been to separate Gaza from the West Bank. Now that's in straight violation of the Oslo agreements, but it's been carried out systematically, and it has a big effect. It means almost half the Palestinian population would be cut off from any possible political arrangement that would ever be made. It also means that Palestine loses its access to the outside world. Gaza should have and can have airports and seaports. And the West Bank, it's what's being left. I mean, right now, Israel's taken over about 40% of the West Bank. Obama's latest offers granted even more, and they're certainly planning to take more. And what's left is just cantonized. It's what the planner, Ariel Sharon, called Bantustans. And they're in prison, too, as Israel takes over the Jordan Valley, drives Palestinians out. So these are all crimes of a piece. The Gaza siege is particularly grotesque because of the conditions under which people are forced to live. I mean, if a young person in Gaza, a student in Gaza, let's say, wants to study in a West Bank university, they can't do it. If a person in Gaza needs advanced medical treatment from an East Jerusalem hospital where the training's available, they can't go. Medicines are held back. I mean, it's a scandalous crime all around.
What do you think the United States should do in this case?
What the United States should do is very simple. It should join the world. I mean, there are negotiations going on, supposedly. They're presented here as a standard picture as the U.S. is an honest broker trying to bring together two recalcitrant opponents, Israel, Palestinian Authority. That's just a charade. I mean, if there were serious negotiations, they would be organized by some neutral party, and the U.S. and Israel would be on one side, and the world would be on the other side. And that is not an exaggeration. It shouldn't be a secret that there has long been an overwhelming international consensus on a diplomatic political solution. Everyone knows the basic outlines, some details you can argue about. It includes everyone except the United States and Israel. The U.S. has been blocking it for 35 years with occasional departures, brief ones. It includes the Arab League. It includes the Organization of Islamic States, which happens to include Iran. It includes every relevant actor except the United States and Israel, the two rejectionist states. So if there were to be negotiations that were serious, that's the way they would be organized. The actual negotiations are barely reach the level of comedy. The issue that's being debated is a footnote, minor footnote, expansion of settlements. Of course it's illegal. In fact, everything that Israel's doing in the West Bank and Gaza is illegal. That's been, it hasn't even been controversial since 1967.
Noam, we have to break,
Israel's own highest legal. Yeah.
We're going to come back to this in a minute. Noam Chomsky, author and Institute Professor Emeritus at MIT, as we talk about WikiLeaks and the state of the world today. This is Democracy Now! Back in a minute.